Welcome in. What's Right with Nick Wright, episode 273. I think we've got it. Maybe not. Hopefully you have my audio. Now you have my video. Working through a lot of tech stuff, but that's no problem. We got a lot to do. Damonza's here. He's the best sports bettor in America right now. He's given out 4 winning teasers in a row. He's 27-8, documented. Not documented on this show, but documented by the great people at CBS Sports Pick'em against the spread. He's crushing all professional handicappers. Life is good. Yeah, the Chiefs going to get revenge on the Raiders, the last team to beat them, the team to mock them with the Kermit stuff. DeAndre Hopkins on the team. We have all this. We have a new sponsor. Million things to do. Let's get right to it. Here's what missed the cut, Damonza. Bobby Saleh at the Green Bay practice, going to join the staff in a consulting role. Sharp move by Green Bay to get him and to prevent San Francisco from getting him. A little double dip. Bryce Young is going to start at Denver, which has led to one of the most, it's not one of my picks, but it is a jaw-dropping point spread because the Denver Broncos are, did you look at this? Do you know off the top of your head, Damonza, what the Panthers at Broncos, what the line is?
The Panthers,
do you know?
Not the Panthers. The Broncos are favored. I can't remember about how many. Is it like 7?
10.
10.
Bo
10.
Nix.
Oh.
Bo Nix, 10-point favorite. If you'd asked me before the year what would need to happen for Bo Nix to be a 10-point favorite going into a football game, I don't know what my answer would have been. Evidently, it's play the Panthers and Bryce Young's return. And Brandon Aubrey, the best player on the Cowboys right now, their kicker, is missing practice this week for jury duty. So how about that? All right, before we get to football, I have a rant, Damonza, because the NBA started this week. And for the majority of my life, had you asked me what my favorite sport is, I would have said the NBA by a significant margin. Over the last decade, and really since my team drafted and nurtured and, played the greatest player to ever play in the NFL has risen to where if you'd asked me 2 years ago, I would have said they're dead even. NFL and NBA, like my favorite days are NFL Sundays. My favorite time of year is NBA playoffs. And over the last couple years, the NFL has ascended past the NBA, but the NBA is still a very strong number 2 for me personally. And then this year, it's opening night, and I just didn't feel the juice. But I'm like, it's the opening night, and I want to watch it. And then I watched the Celtics shoot 63s. And then I saw that Joel Embiid was out already, and Zion is out already, and Kawhi is out still. And here's the rant or the warning or whatever. About 5 years ago, I hosted a panel at Sloan, the Sports Analytics Conference, that Daryl Morey, my pal, among others, were a part of. And I asked Daryl what I think is a thoughtful question, which is, how do you try as a league to serve multiple masters in this regard? The reason NBA guys can make $60 million a year, the reason GMs like Daryl can make well into the 7, some into the 8 figures a year, is because the NBA is a super popular television product. That's it. It is because all of the money is generated by the fact that it is an entertainment product that people value in a way. They don't currently value hockey, and they don't value any of the, go down a few levels, ultimate frisbee, and they don't value paddle or padel or whatever it's called. Like they're all sports, but in this country, the NFL is king and the prince is the NBA and then Major League Baseball. And so what I asked him was, what if the best way to win starts to conflict with creating the best television product, because it is his job to create a winner, but it is the league's job to maintain popularity. And if the best way to create a winner makes the league less popular, then what are we actually doing? Because yeah, people want to win and they want championships, but the reason they want, one of the reasons they want it is because what goes along with that is incredible wealth and riches. But if the league becomes less and less popular, there's less and less money, and then all of a sudden running a basketball team is not as good of a gig as it once was. Being an NBA star is not as good of a gig as it once was. And his answer was, listen, my job is to look at the rules and create the best chance of winning possible. If the league needs to change the rules, so be it. And I'm here to tell you, the league needs to change some rules. Similar to what baseball did with the shift and the pitch clock and paid immediate dividends. If your customer is telling you the product is getting worse, even though the talent is getting better, then you need to adjust. And the NBA, in my opinion, has two not quite existential crises going on, but they could become that. The first one is this. It took teams and players and coaches a long time to figure it out, but they have finally figured out it's not only that 3 is worth more than 2, it's that 3 is worth a lot more than 2. Because there is a 50% premium on 3-point shots, the smart way to play is probably what the Celtics did on opening night. Shoot 60 of them things. Have it be your entire offense aside from dunks and free throws. That is the best strategy. That is also terrible television. The other thing the league or teams have decided is, the regular season doesn't really matter. All that matters is peak playoff performance, because we're judged on championships, but you know who it does matter to? Your customer. And telling your customer going into day 1 of the season, Zion's not ready, Embiid's not ready, who knows when Kawhi's going to be ready, Embiid coming out and saying we're not playing back-to-backs, you're alienating your customers flatly. And I love the league. I love it. But this shit is not sustainable. And this is where you need a wartime consigliere in Adam Silver, and if he isn't one, they need to find someone to assist him with it to make major structural shifts to the league. The simplest way to fix the threes problem is to change the scoring, but they'd never do it because all the records would be thrown out. If it was 4s and 3s instead of 3s and 2s, it instantly fixes it, because then there's a 33% premium instead of a 50% premium. But that's not going to happen. So you need to adjust. You need to adjust by doing the Hollinger idea. Was it Hollinger or is it? No, it's not Hollinger. It's the cartographer. Goldsberry idea. Which is have the 3-point arc truly be an arc, meaning it never flattens out and you get rid of the corner threes. I also think you could do something super radical and be like, hey, guess what? You know what's also worth 3 points? Dunks. I know this sounds insane, guys, but at its core, the NBA is at its best when dudes are flying over people, meeting them at the rim. That is when it's at its best television product. A bunch of finesse guys hanging out at the 3-point line, hoisting 30-footers is not good TV. And everybody is damaged if the TV numbers, if the ratings, if the interest goes down. You are not lifetime entitled to a top spot in the American consciousness. Ask boxing, ask horse racing, ask baseball post-strike, ask hockey anytime in the last 30 years. You're not guaranteed it. And you are going down a path where the games are less compelling television and the fans are worried, do the players even care? And also, the load management issue of it, we need some evidence that it works if you're going to do it. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen a drastic reduction in injuries. I haven't seen guys all of a sudden being so much fresher come the postseason. It's not what I see. I see the guys who take time off in the regular season because of injury are still just as injured in the postseason. And so it's just a warning to a league I love. You are playing a dangerous, dangerous game. And this is, you know what, Damonza, before we move on to football, this is a first cousin of take, my tush push take.
Yeah.
Which is, be
Ugly
careful.
On TV. Right.
And also don't let it get too good. Like the best thing that ever happened to not the best thing that ever happened, but a really good thing that happened for the NFL is that the Eagles never figured out how to get 4 yards a pop out of that. Because if they did, they should run it every single play. And they would win, and Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni would be like, our job's to win. And yeah, it is. But it's the league job to make sure people want to watch what you're doing. And this is not an anti-Celtics thing. I'm not saying it because the Celtics shot 60, and I brought up Daryl Morey because he kind of got this train rolling with Houston a decade ago. But it's a dangerous precedent, y'all, and it's bad for the league. I'm just telling you flat out. The NFL, to their credit, has no problem being like, oh, our customers like offense. We are changing the rules to make it easier to play offense, and we'll keep changing them. Our customers hate when quarterbacks get hurt, so we're going to make it damn near impossible to sack the quarterback violently without getting a penalty. Like baseball, it took them a long time, but then they're like, you know what? The shift too effective. Guess what? New rules, can't do it. Sorry. Oh, you were all these things. You have to be ready, willing, and able to adjust. All right, there's my NBA rant. Now we can get to football, Damonza. Go ahead.
That was all fair. So your Chiefs finally made a move for a big-name wide receiver, and DeAndre Hopkins. Now, he's not the player that he was when he was back with Houston. But do you think that D-Hop can save a struggling Patrick Mahomes? Will it be Mahomes saving DeAndre Hopkins?
Oh, I don't think either one of them needs saving. But I do think that this is a valuable addition, and there's a lot of layers to it. First, let me actually talk from Hopkins' perspective. You know how many quarterbacks DeAndre Hopkins, Damonza, has caught a pass from? He was drafted the same year as Kelsey, so this is year 12 for him. Drafted in 2013. Give it a guess how many quarterbacks he's had.
6 or 7.
You're close. 17.
Holy
He has caught a pass from 17 quarterbacks. Okay? So, DeAndre Hopkins, who is an all-timer, 5-time All-Pro, 3-time first-team All-Pro, he has caught passes from in his Houston days before Deshaun Watson got there. He had Brandon Weeden, Case Keenum, Ryan Mallett, who passed away, Matt Schaub, TJ Yates, Brock Osweiler, Brian Hoyer. Those were his quarterbacks before Deshaun. They then get Deshaun. He gets 38 games with Deshaun, and they're awesome together. He then goes to Arizona. They have Kyler Murray. They have 30 games together. Pretty good. Kyler gets hurt. With Arizona, he then gets Colt McCoy, Trace McSorley, and Chris Streveler. He then signs with the Titans and gets Ryan Tannehill, Will Levis, Mason Rudolph, and there's one other quarterback that I'm leaving out, but that's all right. Those are his quarterbacks.
Deshaun Watson in Houston was the best quarterback of all of those.
By a mile. And so, it's as bad as it gets, man.
Malik Willis, maybe? Oh, it's Malik Willis.
Malik.
Is that the name you left out?
No, because Malik Willis never threw him he never caught a pass from Malik Willis.
Okay.
He has Malik. There are 2 people, not of the 17. 19 people have thrown him a pass. He's caught one from 17. The two who have thrown him a pass they didn't catch one from is Malik Willis and Derrick Henry. 0 for 2 on targets by those two guys. So, for D-Hop, this is an oasis in the quarterback desert. And it's a really cool deal that it's not like a make-a-wish thing, but there is a cool thing that happens every year in the NFL that I don't know why it doesn't get talked about more, which is the preeminent dynasty with the best quarterback we've ever seen once a year surveys the landscape and says, who can we save? And who can we give a new lease on their career that's with a terrible quarterback situation, dysfunctional franchise? And 2 years ago, they're like, you know what? Young Joka, Kadarius Toney, come on down to a real organization. Learn to play football with the Chiefs and play your cards right. You get to score a touchdown in the Super Bowl. And he's like, okay, deal. And he did, and they did. And then the next year, they look at the landscape again. Who can we save? Old friend McCole Hardman. We get you out of the Jets' dysfunction. Come on down, and guess what? You'll get to score a touchdown in the Super Bowl. And this year, it's DeAndre Hopkins. Look around. You know what? Will Levis, Mason, come on to Kansas City, and in a few months, DeAndre will get to score a touchdown in the Super Bowl. It'll be great for all parties involved. Now, you know I don't love old receivers, and he's 32, which is why one of the reasons the Chiefs are the Chiefs is because they didn't give up a third-round pick for Devontae Adams, a third-round pick for Amari Cooper. They gave up a fifth-round pick, and Tennessee's picking up half the money for DeAndre Hopkins. And what Hopkins will do is play the exact role Rashee Rice was playing. He won't be as good after the catch, but he'll be excellent at the catch point. The slot receiver that'll be a Mahomes third down guy. And it'll work. It just flatly will work. I think the Chiefs would have been fine anyways, but this is minimal cost, not super high upside, but a little upside. Just like I really liked the Amari Cooper move for the Bills, I like this move for the Chiefs. There was rumors that, the Rams want a second-round pick for Cooper Kupp. I would not have wanted that. That's too high of a price, and Cooper, even though he's a great player, his ankles might be shot, his injury stuff. It's less of an injury concern with DeAndre Hopkins, and he's just going to be a reliable third down target. So
Titans couldn't drive a harder bargain than that. Isn't it like kind of wild? Like what's at stake for the Chiefs? They give up D-Hop for a fifth rounder, conditional fourth. It's like, I don't know.
Well, and by the way, you know what? So a couple things. One is, I'm glad you mentioned the conditional fourth part of it because I called it a fifth rounder. I really should call it a fourth rounder because the condition is the Chiefs make the Super Bowl, and obviously they're going to. So it'll end up being a fourth round pick. I don't think there was a huge market, and I also think that while the rest of the league, like there's been a lot of reports of teams don't want to help the Chiefs three-peat, and there's, the Chiefs got to pay a premium on this stuff. The Chiefs and Titans did business this summer. The Chiefs traded L'Jarius Sneed to Tennessee. So there is a relationship there. You know what I mean? Yeah. And maybe, I'm not sure, but I do wonder, I don't know this at all. Raw, naked speculation. I wonder if when Brett Veach was negotiating the trade with Tennessee, and Brett said, I want X, and Tennessee said, well, how about Y? And then they're going through it. If he brought up to him, hey, all right, we wanted an extra sixth-round pick in this deal, but we'll take your guys' last best offer. Keep that in mind if at some point this year you decide you want to be sellers in regards to DeAndre Hopkins. Because Hopkins had looked at the Chiefs a couple years ago. I think there were a lot of us that going into the year were like, man, Tennessee's not going to be as good as they think they're going to be. That's a guy on this very show. I said his name. He was one of the first names I listed because I didn't think he'd be that expensive from a draft or salary compensation. So those relationships do matter, and those relationships are good. And I expect Damonza, and you can ask follow-up, to see DeAndre in a few packages on the field this Sunday against the Raiders.
Yeah, so I mean, the Raiders are the most recent team to beat the Chiefs, and they also took the offseason to mock Patrick Mahomes with the whole Kermit the Frog thing. Mm-hmm. So what do you think Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs have in store for them this Sunday?
Oh, I don't think they're going to forget. I think Mahomes will do something and then do a mimic Kermit the Frog thing himself. I think that's totally on the board. I also think that they're not going to forget Antonio Pierce saying he has the recipe to beat the Chiefs. And listen, you are the last team to beat the Chiefs. We'll see how that works out. Yeah, over the summer, he's like, yeah, we have the recipe. And so, listen, as long as we double team Max Crosby every play, this game should be no problem whatsoever. All right, let's go to the Cowboys, Damonza.
Well, so earlier this week, Jerry Jones seemed to take a shot at his head coach, Mike McCarthy, and saying that the plays were bad plays and bad concepts, bad designs, all that. It's not like Jerry Jones has any control over who's the head coach. But then a ton of former Cowboys players came out and said on the record it's been very distracting that there's been tourists touring the facility while they have practices. So is this all, or is this all nothing, or is there something there? Is this bigger than what you thought initially?
Well, listen, the Tours article is insane. I didn't understand the scope of it. The tickets are $40 a piece.
They're pretty cheap.
$40. Right. $90 if you want to talk to hologram Jerry Jones after the tour. That's a true story. But let's assume that the average ticket ends up costing $50. Because the cheapest is $40, the most expensive is $90. Most people probably buy the tickets. But they make $10 million a year off this. So $10 million divided by $50 means they're selling 200,000 tour tickets a year. 200,000. There's a tour every 20 minutes almost every day. That is a lot. And here's the other thing, the crazy thing about it. In the article, this isn't a money grab by Jerry Jones. Of that $10 million, you know how much the Cowboys get? $162,000. Because it's considered football revenue. So the way the math on that works is all football revenue gets split with the players and then split with every team. So the players get 48%, the league gets 52%. So $10 million, 48% off the top to the players. Now you have $5.2 million. $5.2 million divided by 32 teams. Now you have $162,500. So you might be like, why does Jerry do it? And it's not because of the money. It's because of the attention. It's because we're the Dallas Damn Cowboys. We're the biggest show in town, and this is how we want to do business. And the players hate it. And I don't blame them. I always knew the Cowboys did these tours. We've heard people talk about it. I assumed, Damonza, it was like $1,000 a ticket or given out to corporations or long times, you know what I mean? The occasional, like, guess what? You and 4 friends, for being a loyal season ticket holder, can tour the facility. I didn't think it was a group of 10 to 20 people, every half hour just going through the facility. I mean, it's unbelievable.
And he was also telling, like, it's like, you could just do that during the off season. They're like, don't talk to the players. Yeah, it's a work day for them. Why don't you make it a work day for them?
But people want to see, people want to see the players. And Jerry's quotes on this were unbelievable, where he said, no one's ever complained about it, but it wouldn't matter if they did. It's just all time. I used to think the Jerry Jones distraction stuff was overwrought. Not so much anymore. The guy does seem to be a bit of a menace when it comes to the Cowboys succeeding. It's really an unbelievable story, and they play the Niners this week. And we'll see if that comes up in Nick's picks. It's a huge game for both teams, obviously. I would argue actually a bigger game for the Niners because the Niners always beat the Cowboys. And if they don't win this week and fall to 3-5, it's a sign of real structural problems with the team right now. Meanwhile, in a weird way, since the Cowboys always lose to the Niners, losing to them won't be as much of a shock to the system. Also, in the NFC East, I think Washington's going to lose to Chicago this weekend because I don't think Jaden's playing, and I think the Eagles are going to lose to the Bengals. So even if the Cowboys lose, they could potentially keep pace in the NFC East.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. All right, let's go to the Rams.
So the Rams year is obviously not gone as good as they hoped. You were high on LA before the season, but injuries across the board
had them in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, injuries across the board have them at 2-4 right now. Kupp and Stafford were in some weird trade rumors. With the Rams win tonight versus Minnesota, they're right back in that thing. What do you think is going to happen with this team?
All right, the Stafford trade rumors were wild. And I think they were pretty unfounded, but it was that Minnesota might try to trade for him, which is who they're playing tonight. And Sam Darnold's got to be like, what are you kidding? Wasn't I on everybody's MVP list a couple weeks ago? Now we're trading. By the way, let me tell you something right now. Vikings trading for Matt Stafford, I would
Super
hate
Bowl contenders
as a Chiefs fan.
Yeah, immediately, right?
More than contenders. The favorites in the NFC. There's hands down favorites in the NFC if they were to do that. I don't think that's going to happen. But it's a really weird spot. Let's just talk about those rumors for a second. Again, I think it's very, very unlikely. But in a weird way, if you're Sam Darnold tonight and you think these rumors are real, you're like, well, let's game this out. I play well tonight. We win, and we beat the Rams. And the Rams realize their season's over. They need to hold a fire sale, and Stafford's available. That's not good for me. Okay, let's play out the other side of it. I play poorly tonight, and we lose. Well, that's not good for me either. Poor Sam Darnold's kind of in a lose-lose. Because you're playing the Rams. You beat them to show you should be the guy. It makes it more likely that quarterback's available. I don't think they're trading Stafford. I also thought, Puka might return tonight. They think Kupp could return tonight. Or is supposed to play tonight, I should say. I thought the Rams were pretty transparent and leaking to the media. Oh, yeah, we'd hate to trade Cooper Kupp, but for the low price of a second-round pick, we'd trade him. No one's giving you a second-round pick for Cooper Kupp and all his ankle injuries and the salary he has left. Nobody's doing that. But I still think, Damonza, and maybe this is just me being tied to my preseason priors, the Rams, if they get healthy, could turn it around. And I will remind the audience that the Rams last year started 3-6, and then ended up 10-7 and in a back-and-forth 1-point playoff game against the Lions. But they really have to steal this one tonight because falling to 2-5 might be a hole too big when you still have on the schedule at Seattle, at San Francisco, another game against Seattle, home for Philly, home for Buffalo, home for Miami. The Rams need this win, and Vikings obviously... Are the Vikings coming off? No, they were coming off a bye last week. The Vikings coming off a tough loss. Now, one thing on that, though. Fun fact, because it was Vikings-Lions this weekend. The Lions this year, every team that has played them has lost the following week. Remember when the Niners did that a couple years ago? Where it's every team that played the Niners then lost the following week. The Lions beat you up so much, there's a real trend here where everybody that plays the Lions the next week, they get beat and typically get beat pretty badly. So that maybe doesn't bode well for the Vikings. I don't know. This is actually a sneaky great Thursday night football game.
Yes.
All right, let's go to Bronny real quick and then move on.
So for the first time since 2016, the Lakers won on opening night. That obviously wasn't the huge story here. LeBron and Bronny took the court together. And even for those that hate LeBron, you got to admit this is a really cool thing. You can take the time to...
Listen, I just want to jump in. I just want to respond to that part real quick. I don't think those people will acknowledge it was a really cool thing. I think that so I couldn't help myself but respond to someone on Twitter, Fox Sports Radio guy, who I don't know definitively how old this guy is, but I would bet a lot of money he is younger than me. And I think probably in his early 30s. And he tweeted, I'm just going to read you the exact tweet because I was so annoyed by it that I was like, you know what? I'm going to break my prohibition and directly respond to somebody. So he tweeted, and this now, of course, has thousands of retweets. I'll say it so you don't have to. There's nothing historic or special about Bronny and LeBron playing together. It's solely to satiate the ego of LeBron James. King Griffey Sr. and Jr. felt special. That felt weird, staged, and honestly just awkward. So I'll respond to the merits of all that in a second. But here's why I replied to this guy and why I find some of this stuff so cartoonish. This line. King Griffey Sr. and Jr. felt special. Bro, that was 34 years ago. I don't believe you were alive. And if you were, you certainly don't remember how it felt. So don't tell me this felt different when you're just making it up. You didn't, you can, that now, junior and senior, different caliber players, all this stuff. But this pulling on the emotional, that it felt differently. You're full of shit. You're just making things up. You were either not born or too young to have any recollection of how anything felt. So it's just, again, a way, and I saw Michelle Beadle be like yesterday, basically call the whole thing a sham. Folks, the guy who has played more minutes in the NBA than anyone ever, who has scored more points in the NBA than anyone ever, who is the most hyped prep player in the history of the league, who has been scrutinized more than anyone in the history of the league, who's had no scandal, who's had no off-the-court issues, who has been a leader in his community and, at worst, the third greatest player of all time, and at best, the greatest player of all time, had a kid who we saw grow up on the sidelines. That kid then was a top college prospect. He then went to a top program and his heart stopped and he damn near died on the court. He then came back and started playing again and was a fringe draftable prospect. The team that still employs his dad, arguably the greatest player of all time, used a late second round pick on him, and these two guys were on the court in an NBA game together. It's one of the coolest fucking things in sports history. And if you dislike LeBron so much that you're like, oh, what, just a photo op to satiate the guy's ego, you've lost the plot. Now, if later in the season, Bronny is, stealing minutes from Austin Reeves and getting cooked left and right, and LeBron's making it happen, that will be a problem. But that's not going to happen, guys. And listen, I thought it was super dope. And I also think there is an element of, and this goes unspoken with a lot of it, but I'll speak to it. We've talked about it a bit on this before, that in the 90s, a huge through line of NBA coverage was bad guys, the word thug thrown around a lot, absent fathers, kids all over the country that they don't see. That Sports Illustrated had a horrifying cover, like we've talked about on the show before, Damonza, of a little black baby boy, and the headline it was "Where's Daddy?" and talking about absentee NBA fathers. the face of the league for 20 years, has been as active, as involved parent and husband as we've ever seen in sports, and now his oldest son shared the court with him in an NBA game. If you can't see that that is an unbelievable story and save your whataboutism, well, what about later? Let's see how it plays out. But Tuesday night, that was dope as hell. And so, and again, if you want to take shots at LeBron, take shots at LeBron. But don't recreate history about other moments that you weren't around for and how they're different. It's just nonsense. Get Week 8 gambling show next. What's right? Hey guys, it's Nick Wright, and before we get to our Week 8 picks, let me remind you, the NBA is finally back. New season means new ways to get into the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Who's draining threes? Who's crashing the boards and grabbing rebounds? Get behind your favorite players and the prop bets you can make on DraftKings, the home of NBA player props. First time betting? New DraftKings customers get $5 to get new DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Every point counts with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code WRIGHT. That's my last name. That means it's with a W, not just with the R. So DraftKings Sportsbook app, use the code WRIGHT, WRIGHT. That's code WRIGHT for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in New York. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. 21 plus, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/bball. All right, so here, Damonza, here's where we're at on my season picks. We weren't here last week. The week before last, I went 1-4, first true disaster of the season. Last week, I went 3-2. We'll get to that in a second. That means through 7 weeks, I've made 35 picks. Theoretically, since it's an odd number, I shouldn't be able to be 500, but I had one push in there, which has allowed me to be 17, 17, and 1. Which does mean if I had gotten, in order to be tied with Damonza in his picks, I would have needed 10 of those losses to be wins. I just 10 bets go a different way and I'd be where he is. But last week I felt pretty good about it. We weren't able to do it on the show, but we'll talk you through it. The Jags prohibition ended. I promptly bet them, laying 5.5 in London. They were down early, didn't matter. The Patriots stink. The Titans plus 9.5. I got to tell you, man, that's BS that I didn't win that bet. You might say, Nick, they lost by 100. They were up 10-0. I was catching nearly 10 points. The game started 10-0 Titans, and then Buffalo scored 34 consecutive points. But my other 3 bets I loved as well, even though I only won 2 of them. Chiefs plus 1.5 at the Niners. Auto must fire every time the Chiefs are underdogs. It might happen again this year. Who knows? Pittsburgh plus 1.5 against the Jets. That game didn't start well, ended great. And I got to tell you, I know you're going to say I'm crazy. Tampa plus 3.5 against Baltimore. I don't feel badly about that bet. And I know that they ended up getting blown out. Yeah, well, they came out 10-0. They should have come out 14-0. Then they drove again, and Baker threw that pick in the end zone. So I felt like good process for all of these picks last week, 3-2. Now, here's the thing: is you guys might be able to see if you follow me on Twitter. My guy Zach has been making these awesome graphics for us, and one of them is my season-long betting trends and scores and everything. And he informed me I am 10-3 when betting on AFC teams and 7-14 when betting on NFC teams, which would lead you to believe I have a much better pulse of the AFC right now than NFC, which is a little disconcerting. Yeah, that's exactly right. I always lose to the NFC. You're right. It's also a little disconcerting because in reviewing my wagers for this week, 4 of the 5 NFC teams. I got to turn it around somehow. So the first one, Damonza, however, is my one AFC team. You're going to hate it, I'm sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. You've got Cleveland plus 8.5 versus Baltimore. I'm just going to be, my logic on this is twofold. First one, AFC North games, you should not be laying more than a touchdown in any circumstance. It's divisional games. The division's too well contested. You shouldn't ever be laying more than 8.5. And by the way, to back that up, dogs in AFC North divisional games are 45-31 against the spread in their last 76 games or whatever that is. But here's the other reason. The Browns team just got a new lease on the season with Jameis being the quarterback. You are going to see more excitement and belief in that offense than you have seen all year. And Baltimore, the one thing they can't do is defend the pass. Now, I understand Amari Cooper's gone. I'm not acting like Jameis is going to be great. Finish game strong as well.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Always
the back
alive
door
for
is
a backdoor
always
cover.
Yes,
Yeah.
The back door is always wide open with the Ravens. You're 100% correct on that. And so, do I feel great about betting Jameis Winston and the Cleveland Browns in any spot? I don't. But do I feel like that a home divisional dog of 8.5 points is almost a must-fire, especially if you think that team's defense in Cleveland is pretty decent? I do. So I'll take Baltimore plus the 8.5. Next.
Next, you've got Green Bay -4 at Jacksonville. Yeah.
So, fading the Prince. And so here's why I think this is the rare time where laying more than a field goal on the road is the sharp side of things. I don't think it can be overstated how bad Jacksonville's defense is. The Jags defense can't cover anyone. The Packers have 3 viable, legitimate receivers, and Jordan Love is out here trying to throw 4 touchdowns a game. Now, he might throw a couple picks with it, but he is foot on neck at all times. And so I just feel like this is a game Green Bay scores 31, 32 points, and I don't think Jacksonville's going to get to the high 20s. I think Green Bay's defense has been better than I expected this year. Feels like a 31-21, 31-24 type of Green Bay win. So I just think the Jags have arguably the worst defense in the NFL right now. It's certainly on the very short list. So listen, I feel bad fading the Prince, but Green Bay -4 I think is the sharp side of this one, Damonza. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I like Green Bay minus. I don't trust it. Exactly 21 was what I thought the Jags would score there, and I don't trust the Jags at all. I don't know what's going on there. Like, from everything, I can't blame it on Doug Peterson. It just seems like the players don't even want to catch the ball, and then when they can catch the ball,
why can't you blame it on
Trevor
Doug
Lawrence
Peterson?
is overthrowing it.
He's the head coach.
Because it's what I'm seeing on the field. It's like he can't execute the play for the players.
Wow, that's what he said. That's what Doug Peterson said. That exact thing. Also, I will say this, and I'm not besmirching your handicapping abilities at all, but I would wager a lot of money, and one of these games they were terrible, and one of these games they were excellent, that you have not seen a second of Jags football the last 2 weeks, because back-to-back weeks they were 6:30 a.m. West Coast start times. And I just don't think you were getting up for the London game. And
that
so
was
I do think
100% dollars that I've had on their past games. 1,000%.
And so, but I think that's actually fine because they looked terrible in the first one against Chicago. They looked good in this last one, but you're playing the damn Patriots. So what does it really matter?
Right.
All right, next one.
Next, we've got Atlanta -2.5 at Tampa Bay.
Hold on, I think you just skipped one, didn't you? Oh no,
No,
you didn't. Oh no, I skipped one. That's my bad. No. You're right. Yeah, I just worry that that Tampa,
the injuries.
The Ravens beat them twice. Yeah, I just think the emotional toll of that loss and no Godwin, no Evans. Baker also got beat up in that game.
Could Tampa have gotten DeAndre Hopkins if they wanted?
Well, sure, they could have tried. Yeah, definitely. But I think that when did the Chiefs trade for DeAndre? It was Tuesday, right? Was it on our Tuesday show?
No, this is Wednesday. Wasn't it just yesterday morning?
It was yesterday? Okay, so
yeah.
That's why I didn't know if it was yesterday morning or the day before yesterday. Okay, you're probably right. Doesn't matter. You are right. It was yesterday morning it broke. It broke early morning yesterday morning. And so the reason I'm asking it is it does seem like the Chiefs and Titans were working on it Monday, even if it wasn't done, and Tampa didn't know they were going to need a receiver on Monday.
All right.
So now I do think they're going to get Mike Evans back. I just think that Tampa's defense has been highly disappointing. Atlanta's going to be able to move the ball, and I just think that type of loss against Baltimore where you get beat up and you lose key players, I just could see Atlanta having real control of this game, even as bad as they looked last week. I'm laying less than a field goal. Again, I'm taking another road favorite, which is typically not the sharp side of things, but I do that a few times this week. I'm going to lay the 2.5 with Atlanta because I think the Tampa injuries are too much. And Baker, by the way, is 4-10 against the spread at home against division opponents, and Kirk Cousins off a loss is 40-26 against the spread, which is 5th best in the last 20 years in the NFL. All right, next one. I'm telling you right now, I don't feel great about this, but I feel like I'm obligated to do it. Go ahead.
You've got New Orleans +7 at the Chargers.
Yeah, so here's the deal. I obviously don't think New Orleans is good. In fact, I think they're bad. Really, really bad. However, the following people for the Chargers did not even practice yesterday: Darius Davis, Will Dissly, Hayden Hurst, Quentin Johnston, Ladd McConkey, Denzel Perryman. They had another 4 guys that were limited in practice. Also, they don't score points. So how are they really going to cover 7? Their points scored this year are 22, 26, 10, 10, 23, and 15. New Orleans, for all its faults, and I think New Orleans is a bad team. New Orleans, prior to last week against the Broncos, had been able to move the ball most of the year and score some points. I just think that there will unequivocally be far more Saints fans at this game in Los Angeles than there are New Orleans fans. I don't think the Chargers have earned the right to be a touchdown favorite over anyone. So I'll begrudgingly take the 7 points and believe this is going. I mean, last game the Chargers played, they didn't score any touchdowns, and Herbert once again got beat up. The offensive line, has not been as good as advertised. This just really feels to me like a 17-13, 17-14, 16-10 ugly game where New Orleans is going to get to the teens. And I just don't know that the Chargers are scoring 20 plus. That offense has been wholly uninspiring. So I'll take New Orleans plus the 7. Last one, Damonza.
Last one, you got Chicago -2.5 at Washington. It's my favorite one.
Yeah, so listen, this is my 3rd road favorite I'm taking. But I am also going to mention road favorites are 16-2 against the spread the last few weeks. And this is a very, very simple math. Jaden Daniels isn't playing, and Marcus Mariota is not going to be able to duplicate what he did to Carolina. That Chicago defense is going to get after Mariota. That Mariota is not an NFL starting caliber quarterback. Chicago off a bye, huge spot, bad defense in Washington, and Washington's star young quarterback's not going to be playing. The Bears are winning this game, and they're winning this game by more than a field goal. And so now, if Jaden plays, I would feel totally differently. But this line says Vegas does not think Jaden is playing. The Bears would not be 2.5-point road favorites against Chicago if Jaden were playing. In fact, the Bears would not be 2.5 road favorites against Washington if Jaden were playing. In fact, I think it would be Washington by 2 instead of Chicago by 2.5. So
didn't they end up actually flexing this game to like a different time slot? And now it was going to be
Jaden
isn't playing.
It's a bummer. It was going to be just the regular 1 o'clock game with, I think, Cincinnati, Philadelphia
Eagles,
being the marquee CBS game with Nance and Romo. They flexed this one, and now that's kind of a bummer for CBS. Now Nance and Romo, if Jaden doesn't play. Right. But, yeah, that is exactly what happened. All right, so my 5 picks for the week. After 9 of my last 10 picks had been underdogs, we have 3 favorites. Atlanta, road favorite of 2.5 at Tampa. Chicago, road favorite of 2.5 at Washington. Green Bay, road favorite of 4 at Jacksonville. And then 2 big dogs, New Orleans +7 at the Chargers and Cleveland +8.5 at Baltimore. All right, Damonza, you have 4 straight winning teasers. 2 that we haven't yet, that since we weren't on the air last week. 2 weeks ago, your teaser, Houston +0.5 point at New England. They blew them out. Washington +14 at Baltimore. They were in it the whole game. They ended up losing by 7. A+ teaser, my friend. That's a great one. And then last week, you want to talk us through last week's?
It was a 2-team 7.5 point teaser. I teased the Chiefs up to 9 against San Francisco, and Houston up to +10 at Green Bay, and those both worked out pretty well.
Easy winners. And
yes.
both of those were covering the whole time.
Yeah.
Both of those were covering the entire time. So what are we looking at this week?
So this week it's a 2-team 7-point teaser at -140.
Oh, not 7.5. You're going away from the 7.5 point.
The only reason I ever go to the half point is just to, if it's like 13.5 to get to 14.
The key numbers, yeah,
or whatever
of course.
it may be. But yeah, so I mean, this week we're teasing Cleveland up to +15.5 against Baltimore, and I'm teasing the Chiefs down to -2.5 at the Raiders. And I had some other teasers in mind here that were a little chippy, but you know, I went through the process a little bit longer, and this is what I came up with, and yeah, I think this will cash. I like this one a lot.
Can I tell you something? A+.
What? A+. I don't think I've gotten an A+ since week 1.
Getting the Chiefs down to 2.5 is perfect. And getting Cleveland up through not only 14, but 15 as well, which has become it's not a key number, but because 2-point conversions being more prevalent, it's a little more important than it used to be. I love this. I love this teaser. And I also love that you didn't. I was worried you were going to tease the Jets.
Hold on. So I actually didn't hear what you said for like the last 5 seconds. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, I was saying I love the teaser. I think you did great. And I was worried you were going to tease the Jets because the Jets from -7 just to straight up beat the Patriots. Problem is, and I think Patriots are the worst team in the league, but until the Jets win a game, they can lose to anybody. I know that sounds like tautology, but I just wouldn't want the Jets involved. So I love this teaser. I think this is a sharp teaser. All right, let's do Touchdown Genie real quick before we answer some questions.
Yeah, so we're taking a break off the offer to reassess the process, TM. But in the meantime, let's bring back out the Touchdown Genie. So who scored a touchdown this week we got Kansas City, Hopkins. No. I'm sorry. You go ahead and pick your anytime touchdown score. I forgot how it went.
So you're fine. The options are Hopkins +160, Kelsey +105, Xavier Worthy +165. This is the week Travis Kelsey gets in the end zone. And so God dog it. That's so annoying.
What happened?
Sorry, nothing. I'll tell you in a minute. So Kelsey is my bet there. Kelsey would 100% be my bet. I think he's going to score. He kills the Raiders. He scored 1 game against the Raiders. He had 7 catches for 26 yards and 4 touchdowns. 7 catches, 26 yards, 4 touchdowns. That picture of me and Kelsey celebrating the Super Bowl 2 years ago after the parade in the club where it says Al effing Bundy, he got that nickname because of that game. Because Al Bundy once scored 4 touchdowns for Polk High. It was an old married with children thing. And so he would always talk about it. And Kelsey scored 4 touchdowns. So I'll just take Kelsey +105. All right, quick break. Answer some of your questions next. What's right? All right, welcome back in. What's right with Nick Wright? And let me remind you guys, the NBA is finally back. A new season means new ways to get into the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Who's draining threes? Who's crashing the boards? Get behind your favorite players and the prop bets you can make on DraftKings, the home of NBA player props. First-time betting, new DraftKings customers get $5. I'm sorry, I did this again. New DraftKings customers, because I think the offer is almost too good to believe. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Every point counts with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code WRIGHT. That's my last name, WRIGHT. That's code WRIGHT for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in New York. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY, which is 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/bball. All right, Damonza, some listener questions, please.
Joff Bergstrom, a podcaster is never late, nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.
That's a well done turn of phrase, Jeff. Listen, and our producer Matt says that's correct, and it's not because our computer malfunctioned right before we went on the air. Next,
Eric Hua says, question: from a TV product perspective, what do you think is the difference from the Dynasty Warriors, which were super popular, and Missoula Ball?
So listen, I don't think people understand the volume of threes I'm talking about. Okay, the Warriors. The 2018 Warriors, for the record, not only did they not shoot the most threes in the league, they were below average in three-point attempts per game. Right at it. They were 29 a game, which was 16th in the league. The Rockets were far and away the most at 42 a game. So this is what I'm talking about, okay? In 2018, the most in the league were Rockets with 42 a game, and that was when I asked Daryl about it. The previous year, the highest was the Rockets at 40. Number 2 was 33. Okay? So 7 years ago, one team took more than 34 threes a game. All right? Now, let's jump ahead to last year. And I can pull it up for you right now. So, and keep in mind, those Dynastic Warriors were shooting 30. But 7 years ago, one team shot more than 34 threes a game. Last year, Damonza, you know how many teams shot more than 34 threes a game? 17. 17 teams. So it's just the game has just changed so massively. And again, through one game this year, we've had 7 of the 24 teams that have played shot more than 40 threes in their opening night. I just don't think it's good for... So it's not about the Celtics. It's about this. The Celtics are the best team, and right now they're playing mathematically the smartest. So the only chance anyone's going to have is to do the same thing. And it's just not good for the sport. I know I'm right. All right, next.
Stephen Merriweather says, who will end the year with more wins, Damonza's teasers or Trevor Lawrence? I mean,
Damonza's teasers.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Damonza's teasers. I mean, there's no question about it. It's just
next
no
we got
about it.
Next we got Scott Frazier. What does Buffalo need to at least have a chance to get past Kansas City or Baltimore this year? Cooper was a start. What else do they need?
Listen, Buffalo has a chance. They have a chance. I don't think there's more that they are going to be able to add. They're going to need Josh Allen to have the game of his life in January and for the Chiefs to stumble. The Chiefs-Bills thing, they play in a month. We can talk about it more there. And then Ryan Fitzgerald has an interesting question, so go ahead.
Are the Bucks more likely to make the Eastern Conference Finals or miss the playoffs?
Listen, I don't think they're going to make the Eastern Conference Finals, but you're not missing the playoffs with a healthy Giannis. So the answer is make the conference.
Does Giannis
finals.
want to leave the Bucks?
He did a weird thing, where he was like, yeah, if we don't win the championship, they might get rid of me. It's like, no, buddy. I feel like that's you letting them know if they don't win a championship, you might want to leave. Weird spot. That's another one of the prongs of the NBA that I didn't even get into. All right, great show. Good luck to everybody gambling this weekend. See you guys on First Things First at 3 o'clock. What's right? Hey! Thanks for watching. If you're still here, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button, then hit the bell so you can be notified when we have new episodes. After you've done that, one more favor. Go to your favorite audio platform of choice and subscribe there as well. Don't forget, we're live every Tuesday and Thursday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern-ish. 10:35, 10:40, it sometimes changes, but that's why you hit the bell. You hit the bell so you're notified. You subscribe so we can get to 200,000 followers. We're right around 150,000. We'd love to get to 200,000, get Damonza another plaque. So like, subscribe, rate, send a rating too. Do all that cool stuff. Thanks, guys.